Hello, welcome to another fantabulous episode of the Great Work Launchpad. My name is Chris Nelson. My site is evolveconsciousness.org, and today is March 4th, 2026, 9 p.m. This is the Great Work Launchpad, episode 44, Shadow Work 42, Fear or Love 27, continuing, ongoing, delving series into what forces motivate you, fear or love. And that's part of the shadow work, working on yourself, learning about yourself, self-knowledge, and understanding how you work and what's going on inside of you. And this is Fear of Sacrifice, part 5. And I titled it Change the Condition, having to do with changing our condition. And the Great Work Launchpad is an effort to get people launched into the great work of taking in the truth, living, being motivated by, and embodying that force of love within agape, what is right, good, and true, and moral, so that we can create that goal of freedom. Hence that nice little symbol, logo Mark Passio has of truth, love, freedom. It perfectly perfectly embodies the spirit of the great work. And yes, this podcast is here to get people launched, to get people activated. As you will become that rocket, you will take in the truth, you will become driven by love, and you will work to create true freedom. You will ignite that care within, take in that fire, flame, and light of truth, and ignite that care within to propel yourself forward into this work. So you can come on here and if you're apprehensive or shy or lack confidence and don't know how to start, you can come on here and you don't need to have your camera on. You can try to get acclimated to the atmosphere of contributing to some content, or you don't even need to do this. You can just write stuff and take your time, research, write things, rework it through and through, and then publish it. And it's not as stressful and demanding as doing live stuff, or even not live and just doing it recorded. These are all steps you can take on the journey towards activating yourself more and more. And ongoing right now is the How to Become the True Media. You can't join this year. You can join next year. So why am I talking about this? That is if you need to learn the skills. You don't know how to use a computer, don't know where to go to learn, and you can learn on YouTube, you can learn elsewhere, you can pay for courses, you can get anyone, or you can get taught by Mark Passio how to organize your computer, organize this expression of you, this appendage, this, what is it called? I guess an appendage, this extension, that's the word I was looking for, this extension of you that is the computer, and it's an expression of how you organize yourself. So if your computer's a mess, probably internally you probably got some mess going on too, since you don't know how to organize your computer. And he can help with that. He can help you understand how to create content and teach it. So take that course, take something else, doesn't matter. Point is to learn it on your own, get activated, start doing stuff. All right, that's my intro, and we got our usual wonderful, let's call you a co-host by now, Brandon Spencer. Hey, how's it going?
Howdy. How's it going?
All right. So where were we? Last week, talked about quite a few things. People wanting just to live their selfish lives, not wanting to listen to people explain this stuff. And if they do hear it, they don't really want to admit it because they don't want the responsibility. That's what last week's episode was, running from responsibility. And I really stress the importance of the moral part of the education, the higher aspect of the highest aspect of doing the great work. and how people who even do other aspects of the Great Work Level 1, they talk about the symptoms and the trappings of that, and how they're still not taking up the responsibility of that burden of doing the harder philosophical and the most important one, which is the moral philosophy, to get people to understand that, because it's all based on the law of freedom. If we're going to get a truly free world, people have to understand objective morality, so it has to be taught by more and more people. It has to be repeated. Emphasize that. You got to be repeaters, not just focusing on novelty and new stuff to try to talk about things that will attract people's attention more, based on the things going on in the world that are more interesting to them because they're on the bandwagon of whatever's trendy, whatever's popping up in the news. So I guess that's a brief little recap of last week's episode. So we ended with philosophy's boring and the cool kids are chasing the hot stuff, as Brendan put it. Well, I guess I'll pick up, not really related to that, but I guess everything we're talking about is related to that. The problem, I guess I could talk about the image. So I was like trying to figure out, what we're going to use as an image. So I got the wonderful AI to, after several tries, to generate something I was thinking of the changing condition. So water going from ice to liquid to a gaseous state. And so, we're talking about a bit, well, what we're always talking about. It's always about changing the condition. That's what the point of the great work is. But I was like looking at my first paragraph or so, and that's what popped out. So that's what I put. Change the condition. So the problem of human slavery, that is our condition. And that is what exists. That is the truth of our existence right now. It doesn't have to be that way. So it can change. It's that way now. Hasn't always been that way. Can be different. And it exists this way right now because everyone, the majority, accepts it as legitimate. First of all, there's the problem of they don't even understand that that is the condition, and therefore that's why they just accept it as legitimate, because they don't understand the intricacies, the details, the complexity of the world that they live in, and how they are living in an unreality, a false reality. It's always the reality that we create, but their perception of it is they're not seeing it as it actually is, and that's the false reality. And from that false perception, they create into it as if it's totally fine to continue to live that way. And if we are going to change it, that is going to take a majority, hence change the condition. It takes this majority in order for that human condition to change. You can have 10 people living morally, but when there's 10 million not living morally, well, those 10 people aren't going to make that the condition. Inversely, if there were 10 people being immoral and 10 million people being moral, well, the condition of that society would be a moral one, because the 10 people being immoral wouldn't be representative of the overall condition and way of life that things are. And they could be, if those 10 people were just being immoral to each other and they were not visible to the others, then I guess they could continue doing that. But if they're being immoral to the other people who are actually morally unified, their immorality would not last very long. They would be dealt with. So if the majority doesn't fulfill the requirements to end slavery, then it won't be ended. This is a continuation of what I was harping on last week, what I was preaching about. If the majority do not fulfill the requirements to end slavery, then it won't be ended, and that is the moral knowledge is the requirements to end slavery. Because without the moral knowledge, you're stuck on that checkerboard floor, walking on both the light and the dark. So with the moral knowledge, you can choose to only step on the light squares instead of the dark squares. Or another way to look at it, you can elevate yourself above living on the checkerboard floor, which is where you're choosing the light instead of the dark. So each individual has to change, And that change includes being a voice for truth, to uplift human consciousness to align with objective morality. And that's the burden of responsibility again that we have, is to get other people to change. Is you're not going to change them. You're not going to shove the food. We're serving the moral truth. We're serving information. They have to want it. So if you're at a restaurant and someone just brings you food, maybe you'll eat it, maybe you won't. It doesn't mean you're going to eat it just because someone brings it. Well, just because we're providing information doesn't mean people are going to take it. So they have to want to take it. You can lead a horse to water, but they have to drink. Open the door, someone has to walk through it. Those types of sayings. So we have to be a voice to potentially uplift human consciousness so that they can change themselves, because that's what the alchemy is all about. Being an alchemist is you've done the inner alchemy, but then you're doing the work to put it out there, to influence others to change. You're not going to be able to change them from a bronze or lead to a silver to a golden state, but you've reached the golden state where you're activated and you're teaching things that matter to change human consciousness so that we can change our condition. So this requires work. Being an alchemist isn't just working on yourself only. It's about doing the work to take what you've taken in and reflect it back outwards. You were a sponge, and now you're going to be a hose. One absorbs water, one sprays the water out. So this is action, the active phase. So work and action is how the human way of life is brought into manifestation. Even at the basic level, you have a man and a woman, they get busy, makes a baby, takes action. That basic life is brought into manifestation by action, but also the higher life, as the symbolism and allegory of Jesus. I am the way, I am the life. And he's talking about he came to the world not to bring peace, but to bring a sword. The truth divides. It cuts falsity away from the truth to distinguish them. And when people are attached to falsity and they won't let go, that's going to cause divisions between people. And that's why you got to choose, symbolically, Jesus. You got to choose the truth. You got to choose morality, choose what's right over the attachments to other people who are still attached to falsity and won't let go. What was I talking about this? The human way of, I'm the way and the life. Well, that's the higher life is, and that's that Matthew 34. I don't remember which chapter it was. Anyways, the sword of truth was about, you gotta choose him to find your life, and if you choose your life, you lose your life. So it's all convoluted stuff and all encoded things, but it's about choosing the moral path to actually be reborn, because that's what the resurrection is. The second birth is the birth of conscience. Conscience is the definitive knowledge of the objective difference between right and wrong. And once that is born within you, then you're at a certain level of awakening, or you've been reborn to the degree where you've resurrected your care to a significant degree to have developed the objective knowledge of morality. You have conscience within you, not necessarily that you're exercising it, but you have it developed, and then you should align your behavior to exercise conscience. And then the third part of that is to teach. So you take it in, you understand it, you have conscience, you exercise conscience, you're no longer doing immorality, and then you teach it so people can engage in that same process. That's the alchemical process. So all of that requires work to bring this way of life, this better way of human life, by each individual becoming a truer version, a truer potential of themselves, a higher potential of themselves, bring that into manifestation. So it's a long road, and it takes work, it takes dedication, it takes energy. It's not intention alone that's going to get it done. It's not, oh, well, I really, really want, I got my intention, I'm praying about it, and I want this better world to come about. That's not going to do it alone. That can be fuel for you to be like, oh, you really want it? All right, well, put your action behind it. And then you're going to be part of that force of attraction to attract that into existence. That's the law of attraction, is based on action, not just woo-woo thinking and wishing and intention. Not saying that can't. Absolutely impossible to have any effect whatsoever, but it's not going to get the job done. It requires action. And there are people engaging in actions in the world to create the conditions we have. Action is being done by police and military, abroad and locally, with the police and sometimes the military, but abroad they instill fear in the target populations that they go harm in order to, for example, do a regime change, to change the other parts of the world. And they view it as totally fine. But they're also being immoral. And imagine someone said, oh, we're going to do a regime change on you. How much they would object and how much people would object to it. Just because they view themselves delusionally as the good guys. They're on the good side, and those guys are the bad guys. So it's fine if it happens to them, but no, not to us. We're already on the good side. You can't regime change us. Everything's fine over here. So the police instill a fear of disobedience and enforce commands to punish disobedience. And that's the world we live in. That's the enslavement that you're under, where your will is being superseded and overridden by the will of others who decide that you can't do A, B, C, even though it's within your rights because you're not initiating harm to others. But they're going to tell you, no, you're not allowed that cannabis, that alcohol, this, that, the other, whatever. Oh, lemonade stand, no, you can't have that. Whatever it is. They're going to say, no, you can't have it. You got to do it this way, or file for paperwork, or get a license, get a permit, etc. And then if you get it, then you're allowed. But your natural rights, you're not allowed to exercise your natural rights unless we give you permission to. So you don't have control over your will and your body. Someone else is saying they get to decide what they do with your body and with your will to exercise, to fulfill the actions being done by your body. And when someone is preventing you from using your body and your will, they're making a claim of ownership upon your body and your will, and a claim of ownership upon your body and your will. There's a definition for that, and it's called slavery. When someone claims to own you. It doesn't mean they're claiming to own you totally, but any claim of ownership upon you, even in part, is a claim of ownership. So people are being kept in fear of disobeying because they got these people who are willing to act to enforce the commands of compliance based on the rules that are made up by these other people. So the true freedom that we want requires work to restore it, given where we're at. If it was already here, well, we wouldn't have to do this work. I think I mentioned that last week or the week before. We wouldn't have to do this work. It would already be the de facto way of everyone raising children all around. It would already be things that you talk about to raise people morally and have them raised in consciousness and not be abandoned and remain as irresponsible children. So, even then, if we had true freedom, it still requires continual work of moral education to the young. Because if the adults all know it and then they don't repeat what they've learned and ensure the consciousness, the state of consciousness is in a capacity to continue that way of life of true freedom, then it won't be continued because they don't understand the importance of freedom. They don't understand the importance of morality, the importance of truth. So all these things need to be instilled so you can keep that way of life going. And also to apply justice for injustices, to not tolerate the injustice and allow it to continue. Because you can teach people about morality, but if you don't teach them about the need to morally unite when there's injustices, then the injustices will happen and they'll keep happening and it'll keep growing. And you can have all the moral knowledge you want, but if you're not acting to uphold it, then it doesn't really account for much, because it all comes back to action, work. There's always this involved. All right, I'll pass it to you, Brandon, if you want to add anything.
It's crazy when you look at all of the amount of content, that's on the one Great Work, network, and all of the, content creators, and how, that's a plethora of, how natural law and how, how morality and rights. And this is the advantage, that we have in today's day and age with the, the technology and knowledge that we have, come to know. So the importance of the moral knowledge, I know you are, hammering on that, but the importance of that knowledge is how we change the conditions, because without the moral education, like how are you really, like ever getting to the root, how the condition, the state of mind, how the, how the reference of the mind, how the mode. So you're talking about, how the thinking, the mental state, have the mental plane. So, how do we change that? Well, what tools are the social engineers, using? Doing the schooling, how the repetition, how symbolism, through, for entertainment and art and the influence. So that information that they are using is what changing the conditions to what they want. So, again, if if it was more of us, if it was more voices, in right livelihood, willing to put out that moral knowledge, way more voices, then we could influence those conditions. Because that's the only way, how like you said, is through action, through right moral action. And the only way to do that is with more education. That is the only way we are going to change, how these conditions toward the better. Because again, we're not going to get to that with, stand by and no action. No action is going to get us to the exact conditions that we say we don't want. So yeah, right action, more education is the only solution, Like I don't know how much more clear, how you have to be, you know, in order to get people like, dang, maybe I do need to start getting involved. Maybe I really do need to start caring.
Yeah, well, that's why we gotta be repeaters. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And, because the idea is like, oh, I already said that, or someone already said it, and someone already said it, and you're like, okay, I'm going to talk about it once. And maybe people heard it. Maybe some, we'll say like, whatever. I'm not saying zero people. I'm saying by quantity. There's like this many people heard it. Whatever, like say 10 people heard it. But then in the future, you can make you make content, and you make content. Maybe you do one video a month or something. And then a year from now, you put out something and someone watches that content, that thing that you just put out. But they're not going to get the information that you did last year where you talked about it. So you got to continually bring up these points. They would have to go through, you're like, oh, I like this. Let's see what else they created as content. I'm going to go through their previous content, and then they would get the material.
Yep.
But that's not a guarantee. So it's not like we can just repeat the same thing every single episode and make it a repeat, because then you might as well just put a replay on. But these important like tangents and side, like keep bringing in these things that are tied to it, the important things to get people to try to like flick a light in their internal domain, to turn on the light, ignite the flame a little bit more, to really get it of the importance. So we keep bringing it up here and there. And yeah, we've gone into it over and over already in this series. And I've talked about it at least twice, the whole, if there were 10 million people on YouTube creating content, it would be, you can't ignore it. That's the whole point, is where we got to get to that point where people, the big influencers, everyone couldn't ignore it, and then they'd get into it, and then they could start talking about it too, and then it would influence even more people. Yep. So the more people that do it, the more potential it has to reach more eyes and ears, the more potential it has to influence them and to look into it more, and then to get involved, and then it can grow and grow and grow. Yeah. So there's two types of work that serve the fundamentals of entropy, chaos, involution, and syntropy, order, or evolution. And that's what we're talking about here. Number 27, I think it is, on fear or love, is what motivates us, what forces, what propensities, what fundamentals are we serving. So you have to ask yourself, well, who is serving the syntropic force of love, of fulfilling the requirements of us all having true freedom in the world, versus how many people are serving the opposite, which is either putting it backwards, involution, away from that forward direction, or stagnating it. And one of the ways is just serving money. Instead of serving that force, you're choosing, money. Money is my God. Money is that thing that I'm going to serve. And they do the jobs that either keep things stagnated or put things downward direction, which is anything to do with authority, is putting it into the not direction of the forward direction of evolution that we all want to go towards. So those jobs that don't serve love, true care, for us to truly be free. And those who know all this stuff, and they might have good intentions, but they aren't acting on it. They aren't taking on the burden of that responsibility. They are in internal opposition. And that internal opposition, there's an ancient word for it, and that is Shaitan, Satan. That's the opposer. That's the opposer within, is Satan. And that satanic force is the force of involution, of entropy, of fear, of chaos, sending us in either a stagnation of where we are, which isn't where we want to go, or bringing us further downward. So good intentions are not good enough. Plenty of people have this knowledge, like how many people have gone through Passio's work and they're still not active, and that's why, he's just ballistic about it in the last season and mockery and everything. And even before that, 2021, 2020, 2021, 2023, and then the last one, 2024. He just, that's what pissed him off the most, is people just keep coming back for infotainment, and they are not interested in doing the work. They just want the easy way, the easy path, the easy route. And there's a quote, I forget what it is, but it's in one of my early infographics on heaven and hell, symbolism, Bible symbolism related to natural law, heaven and hell, Bible symbolism. And there's like a quote by Jesus, I think it is, related to the narrow path and the wide path. And the narrow path is the hard path. It's arduous. It's tumultuous. It's burdensome. It's there's trials and tribulations. It's not the easy way. And then the wide path is, well, it's wide. You can just walk in. It's like no effort. You just go right through. But the narrow path through the mountain is where you got to squeeze through and you got to crouch and crawl. And it's like, I can't fit. I got to remove some rocks. I got to dig out some dirt. And those are I just wanted to add that. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Hey guys, good to see you again. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Can hear you loud and clear.
So you got through past
Well, I
year's
just
work.
wanted to send. Yeah, I did, and it's a bit of a. I know kind of everyone does it or whatever, but it's a bit of a celebration for me, and I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a clap on the back as well because I've been following along with you guys. I look forward to listening each week. You guys have helped me on this journey as well, so it is having an effect, as is the work of Passio, and it's the first time I've really gone through a big body of work and a stepwise progression like that. And then, with this launch pad, I just wanted to give gratitude because, I did call in early as I was listening along. It took me a number of weeks of listening to you guys before I even did that. I just wanted to give some gratitude and some thanks because it is having an effect, even though it seems like, it can seem like you just kind of, shouting into the void sometimes. So it is having an effect, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, cool. You're welcome. Glad the content and the information has been able to help you do some work within and activate some stuff and get you progressing. As you say, it's it's steps. You're not going to go from 0 to 100 instantly, and it all takes steps to work on ourselves, to overcome those limiting fear factors, the fears, and it's a progression. It sure as hell is an instant. I don't think anyone could possibly do it instantly. So as long as you're progressing, that's great.
Yeah, yep. And it's like the mountain of Damarsary or whatever Mark Passio talks about it. It's kind of, you think you've done a lot of work and you've done shadow work, and then you come over to the next kind of clearing or whatever, and you realize you've got a lot more to do. And it's it's kind of walking a little bit between worlds, thinking that you know a lot, and then thinking that you know nothing, and then kind of integrating and doing more shadow work and keeping on going on. But yeah, it's been very helpful, and I wanted to thank you both. So I just pulled over. I'm just driving, so I just pulled over. It's been at the beach, soaking it all in, and yeah. So thank you guys, and I'll keep watching and listening, and it's having an effect. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Brandon, you want to add anything?
Yeah, that's cool to hear. Chris gets, all the praise, and I'm just here, learning and listening and adding, my 2 cents. But it's always, good to hear that, there are individuals, who are out there who are learning and listening and, still care enough to, sacrifice and learn. And you never know, they can be some of the, next great teachers out there, who are, educating the next generation. So yeah, it's always, good to hear. And I wish you the best of luck and keep on pushing and keep on trying to learn and discover more and more.
Yeah, keep on keeping on. Keep at it. And and it's, I was just thinking like how much work there is, and people don't realize it, and then when they do get like an inkling of it, it's like, whew, no way, man. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested in that. No. I don't got that time in my life. Fuck that. I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. You go. We've talked about it before. You do the work. I'm just gonna keep doing whatever fucking shit selfishly that I do in my life. That's all about me and mine and my own and my family. And this thing of trying to create true freedom, what I won't even experience in my life, not worth my time. Not gonna do it, because even at that point they haven't even worked on themselves enough, and it's like it takes a long time going through. You got to take in the information, then you got to let it. It's like it's working on you. If you're at a point where you're even active enough to care to seek out information, that information comes out and it's like it's working on you in the subconscious, and it's molding you and shaping you. And there's like some shadow work that's happening even without you knowing it in some degree. The most powerful one is, when you do it consciously and you're going to try to overcome things. But just taking in that information, if you're at a point where you've begun like that knowledge quest and that spiritual journey, or whatever term you want to use, internally there's stuff going on. It's because you take it in, and that'll only do so much. And just taking it in doesn't mean you're going to be activated. Plenty of people, like we were just talking about with Paz, they take it in and they go nowhere, because you gotta consciously think about it. You gotta consciously process the information and the reasons and the why and the purpose, and understand it so that you can take that and make it your own purpose and motivate yourself to be activated. Activate and bring that love and that agape and that true care, that wider care in you, so that you can start doing the actions yourself. And I want to mention that it's just, he talked about it, 2 years going through what on earth is happening. So it's like, it takes a while to go through the information and to work on yourself slowly and surely. And that's why I think last week that I mentioned, like, for me, the real solution is children. That's where the best hope we have is for people who are awake to have children and properly raise their children, so that they don't have to be deconditioned and deprogrammed from the false reality. And then when they're all busy in their later life, then they gotta refigure things out. Like Yoda says, you gotta unlearn what you learned and then redo everything. When you get it right the first time, there's nothing to redo and there's less confusion. And that's where I think most of the hope for humanity is in the children and the people who have raised themselves thanks to other people helping to raise them. They've worked on themselves to raise themselves. Then they can actually raise the next generation in a better way, so that they don't have to go through the work of raising themselves when they're adults and redoing all the bullshit that they've been conditioned into.
Yep. It's so much easier to just get it right the first time than having to do the rinse and repeat method. Yeah.
So we're talking about Satan, that internal opposition, and that's one aspect of that force of opposition from within, and the other aspect is when you're in opposition to that force, that propensity of true care, love, right, good, morality, truth, because you're not serving it, so you're in opposition to it. And that's where the immorality level 2 and morality level 2 that I talk about in my work. So that even that symbolism of Satan is the opposer within, but it's also the opposer without, where you're opposing those things that are larger than us that we can align with, those things that are these, what we can look at as forces and fundamentals of creation, syntropy and order and evolution, and being part of moving things forward in our human domain in alignment with that force, with those propensities and those fundamentals. So those are the two aspects that I view the Satan, where you're too focused on you. You haven't gotten over yourself yet. And it's all about you, what you want for you in your life now, before you die, or continuing what you got for your children and their children and their children and their children, but not on actually getting the best condition that you can get. I'm not talking about financial condition, I'm not talking about material condition of like comforts and whatever people view as the optimal life. I'm talking about the moral condition of true freedom. And it's funny, there was a thing I saw on, I don't know, I watch like tech videos related to programming. And then I went to look at a tweet that someone wrote to see if it was like a video they made recently or if it was made like last year. But it was from November. Anyways, they finally got around to posting one of their live things. And I went to look at the tweet. I couldn't find the tweet because it was obviously like months old. But I found like a more recent tweet, and someone was quoting someone who sold a company. I forget what the company, maybe it was Lovable, or I don't remember. They sold a company. They made a company, so they're like an entrepreneur. They made a startup. They sold it for $1 billion, and then it was just like they're totally rich. They have all this freedom, but now like everything is like a side quest to them. It's not like they lack the purpose and meaning that they had before, when it was like they were striving for success and striving for money because they lack this true purpose that we all have within us at a fundamental level. And for them it was trying to get more money, or trying to get the fame, or trying to get the success, and then they got it all, and they got $1 billion. Now they're rich, they'll never need to work again in their life, and they're like having trouble finding meaning in their life, and that everything's like a side quest. There's no main quest in life anymore. And
because you can get whatever you want when you are a billionaire. Yeah.
So there's no like, oh, I need to strive to make this happen so that, you know, I can like accomplish something to like get the money to have a better life and have more freedom. And now they just have it all, and now it's like they're like they're not optimistic on life, and it's all boring to them. And that's just exemplifying that this is the satanic mindset of the selfishness, because that's what Satanism is. It's the Satanism of egotism, as I had in one of my slides in Funnel 4, is people think Satanism is something else, but it's essentially egotism at a lower level, and a lower level of egotism at that. And then there's higher levels of egotism where you get into greater degrees of social Darwinism to eugenics. But the lower levels certainly are focus on yourself, your survival, your life, whatever you want to be true, whatever is beneficial for you. And pretty much everyone is at moral relativism because they don't have the knowledge of objective morality. So everyone has it at those two basic levels. And a lot of people are even into social Darwinism as thinking that's how things should be or need to be. And they might not be in the higher echelons or even in the mid echelons of the social Darwinism hierarchy, but they believe in it and they're striving for it. They're striving to climb that ladder. They're striving to climb that, I don't know what to call it, the rat race. They're trying to get ahead in the rat race. And because they're stuck in like that quote, that guy who was just trying to get success, trying to get money, and that was his goal, and that was his purpose, and that was his quest, and now he's got like no real purpose. And that's what the great work is this purpose that is all there for all of us. It's the one common purpose that we have, every single human being, because that purpose is working to rectify and restore and bring justice to what was stolen from us, what is currently being denied to us, and that is our natural rights. That is our birthright. Our birthright of our natural rights is denied us. And so all of our purpose is to regain our birthright. And that's what people don't have. And when they achieve the selfish goals they have of success, material wealth, then they're left empty because they don't have this true, higher, truer, and realer purpose in themselves developed. They're just totally clueless about it even being there. So that's what I wanted to say about those connections with Satanism. And people are focused on details and the minutiae of what's happening. Talked about this too, the effects, right? The true causal dynamics, they're not interested in that. The true causal dynamics that create the effects that we have now, or that have created the effects in the past, or that will create the effects in the future that will continue to be created and that will come in the future. They're not focusing on that, on those causal dynamics. They are clueless to it. So this problem that we have and how it's being created is those causal dynamics. Problem solving is not something that they're really good at. Because if they were good at problem solving, they would be able to recognize the true solution when it was presented to them. And, Mark Passio, us, plenty of people presenting solutions. But people are not good at problem solving, so they can't even use logic to analyze a problem properly to attempt to figure out a solution. Now, I'm not saying each individual is capable of figuring out the solution on their own. It's a very complex topic. Truth is complex in its totality. And luckily, we do have people who know the real solution, not half-assed, half-baked solutions that aren't real solutions, but real solution of the great work, moral education. This is being presented, and if you're a decent thinker, good, decently able to do problem solving, you'll realize, there's this problem, and oh yes, this solution actually does solve that problem. And then you realize all the other so-called solutions don't actually do it. But people aren't good at problem solving. They don't have that critical thinking capacity developed well enough. So maybe some people would be able to figure out all on their own. If you would just talk about the effects, and they would be able to figure out what the real solution is. I sort of had it. Before I got to Passio, I figured out anarchy was like the way things should be. But I was still kind of black-pilled that, people don't understand how to do that. They don't understand how to do it. So I was like, we can't get there. But it was something I did figure out, but I didn't have all the pieces to understand how to get there. But I did come up with it. But yeah, I still lacked proper critical thinking and proper problem solving to actually realize that was the true solution, and because I lacked other pieces to be able to make it a reality. So this problem solving, critical thinking, the causal dynamics, that's not needed for most people. They think it's not needed. And it's hardly ever done by any individuals anyways, without the knowledge from others. So, all right. So what I was saying here is that you don't need to be someone who figures it out on your own. We're always going to be taking in knowledge from other people, and we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. So the important part is being able to recognize it when it's presented to you, when you come across it, and have that aha eureka moment of, holy shit, this is it. This is what I've been searching for, because that's what we're on this knowledge quest. We initially wake up, I'm pretty sure for everyone, maybe we're things aren't going so well, we're at a low point in our life, so we're more receptive to initiating this knowledge quest, the spiritual path of truth. Because we recognize things aren't right. things weren't going so right in our lives. So then we're more paying attention to how things aren't right outside of us. Because when you're living in your little blissful, little ego, selfish, satanic reality where it's all about you and everything's going right, well, you don't give a shit about what's going on in the world as much. And so when things start to break down, then you pay more attention. And then you're like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, that's not right. Oh, what's going on? I'm going to look into this more, try to figure things out. What's that? Oh, the world doesn't work as the way I thought. And you dig more into it. And you're like, what's trying to find, it's not right. How do we make it right? What's the solution? Where are we going to go? And we're grasping, we're trying to get there. Maybe we don't even know if that's what we're trying to get to, but that's ultimately we're trying to get to. We're trying to get it as a way to unfuck the world, to make it better, and get out of this shit that we're in. So when it's presented, people are still rejecting the true solution because they suck at thinking, or they still haven't gotten over themselves and the things they're attached to that are false. They're not engaging in what I term objective detachment, or you detach from yourself and you look at things in themselves on their own merit without all the bullshit that you bring in and are attached to and you identify with as part of yourself and your worldview. So they reject the true solution. They suck at solving problems and these deep problems since they reject the solution. And why? Because it's hard work. It's hard work to think. And they won't get to see the fruits of their labor, even if they do understand the solution. So maybe they are capable of analyzing the solution and they do have a certain level of critical thinking and they get it. They're like, oh yeah, okay, that is the true solution. But I still reject it because no, it's not viable because it's too much work. And too much work for me, too much work for everybody. It's not going to happen. Too much work. People aren't going to do it. I'm black-pilled and nope, can't go with that solution because even if it's the right way, too much work. I just want the easy way out. I want the quick fix, the easy solution, things that don't require work from me. And that's sad because then they're not going to be part of the solution and you're still serving that satanic involution, entropic, chaotic, fearful force. That's still what's in you. That's what's got you trapped. That's those limiting fear factors like we've been talking about for a long time now. That's what's holding you back. And a lot of people, they look at it from that selfish perspective, that egocentric, satanic perspective of they will not reap the benefits. They will not see the fruits of their labor. If they get involved, they realize that like, I'm going to do this and it's just going to few people waking up here and there, some people getting involved over and over, and we keep rinsing and repeating. It's going to take thousands of years. And maybe that is what's going to happen. And so they're like, well, screw that. I'm going to go live my life, my selfish life to live for me and what I want. So they're looking at short term, what they can get out of things. If it's a short term fix, even if it's a half-assed, half-baked fix, people are more sold on that because it doesn't require as much effort and it has more potential short-term response, short-term feedback, short-term effect manifesting. Like, try to change the money system, crypto this, vote for this person, change this, blah, 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 all this other bullshit. And there's all these short-term things. So they believe that what they conceive as short-term fixes will be the solution because that's all they're interested in, because they're lazy sacks of shit that don't want to get involved and do the work that is required because they're too interested in doing other things with their life. Pass it to you, Brandon.
Take 1,000 years. Oh man, that was hilarious. Because it's like when you were saying that, I was imagining like the people seeing the great work as like this barren wasteland of like this desertness, of dryness, just born, this time, where you got the little dust ball that flies by,
Yeah.
and where it's like man, how no one wants to be there, because it's born, there ain't nothing going on. So, but how you had brought up the whole Hashatan force, and the way I've always come to understand this force is whenever you are in a form of internal opposition, and then two, whenever you are in a form of opposition to, like, truth and morality, and what Mayat stood for. So, you know, the Hashatan force is meant to go against, to, oppose. So whenever you are in these states of internal, contradiction, and these states of internal, opposition, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are not in sync. They are misaligned. And to be misaligned means to be bent, and it meant to be crooked. So, you can kind of see why the whole, Hashatan's force was always, associated, held with evil. But then too, um, you also have in this satanic mindset, like this whole, preservation of systems, like this whole saying, it's always been that way, so it must continue to be that way. That's the whole satanic mindset, too. It's like, oh, because this system is in effect, we can't change the conditions, because if we change the conditions, then, it may lead to a different outcome. So yeah, you can't change the system, so just play ball, just go along with the system. So yeah, that right there is also too, with the whole satanic, mindset, because all that's doing is keeping slavery going. All that's doing is keeping more suffering, have more suffering going. So, you can't change suffering. So, just go ahead and be a good little obedient slave. That's pretty much, what that's saying. But yeah, the whole Hashatan being in a form of internal, opposition, opposition, internal contradiction, and then also to, like you said, being in opposition to truth, doing what's right, to natural law, to higher states of truth, and to, true morality and ethics.
Yeah, people stuck in learned helplessness, that hell. They think it's got to be this way. It's this way. It's got to be this way. It's going to continue being this way. That's the eternal hell. Here, this is from my seed 5 presentation. The negative thinking, resigning yourself to thinking the condition is eternally this way, in this dark, false worldview, being blackpilled. It's written in stone. Can't change. You can't change it. No one can change it. Like you're being eternally tortured in hell, and you can't escape, as if you deserve it this way, and there's no point in even trying to get it out of it, because it's written in the code of the universe. It just got to be this. It's a law. It's the law of the universe. It can't change. And that's the eternal child syndrome or mindset, because you avoid, deny, ignore, and reject the personal responsibility to even try and comprehend how to get out and work to change the condition. And that's a self-loathing mindset where you're not even worth the effort or time to even try.
Yep.
So you accept slavery rather than employ your free will to change the condition. And what's the other one I had? Yeah, the learned helplessness. No change possible. Oh, there's a big wall in the road. Well, I can't go around the wall. Can't destroy it. No, it's just that's just the way it is. We're stuck there, and people get this raising. The elephant is what we're talking about here, not being raised, where you're tied down, and you're inhibited, limiting fear factors, unraised in consciousness, false beliefs, false reality, and then you get stuck to it. Your identity is attached to it. You're attached to the worldview. You're attached to that self-view, and you're not breaking free. Even though you have the ability, you're not a child anymore, so influential, and now you can choose. You have the power within you, the power of consciousness. That's what the title of this presentation was the power of consciousness. You can break free from those limitations. You're big enough to just rip that peg out. You're capable of doing the work to understand that you're not tied to these beliefs and these false things, and you can get rid of them and walk away. just wanted to add that before we end it. And this week I won't forget. And I got another one last week with Brandon. I showed him two. We got one that we're used to, the eternal words of Mark Passio. And then I found another one who says it even harsher. So watch out, boys and girls. You're about to get slapped on the left cheek, on top of the right cheek. And I got another one which is more gentle, but it emphasizes the purpose of what we're trying to do. So hold on here. All right, so that's going to work. Let's change the audio device. Beep, beep, beep. All right. So if you're not hearing this, Brandon, let me know. It should work this time. Okay.
How about trying to get out there and do the actual great work so this world isn't such a fucking hellhole, huh? How about getting involved in the effort to free every fucking body because we're fucking enslaved, loser? The whole point is to make new teachers who do fully understand these dynamics so that we can cause a chorus of resounding truth throughout the earth.
There you go, boys and girls.
I fucking love it. Yeah, I fucking love it.
Yeah, it's great. That's the purpose. We're talking about the voice of truth. You got to become part of that chorus. You got to join the choir. Come on, boys and girls, join the choir. I'm going to go to church.
Yep.
I'm going to sing in the choir. Well, the choir is the choir of truth. Amplify that voice of truth, because right now the voice of truth is very weak. Our choir is very small. The voice ain't getting very far, all right? There's nobody, it's not very powerful. That music is not being heard by many. So I got more people talking about it. The voice of truth is amplified. It gets bigger. Reaches more ears. That choir, that nice voice, reaches more ears. That's why we got to make teachers. That's the point of this. Great Work Launchpad. What Mark Passio is doing, his whole purpose of what he's doing. That's what I've been trying to do since I made my site, is trying to make more teachers. That's why I go deep into concepts and try to explain things deeper so people can get a deeper understanding. And that's what we're trying to do, is make more teachers. And that's what that third clip is about. And it's what, Passio's vitriolic anger is trying to motivate. Is that fire. You got to light a fire under your ass so that you get involved and get teaching, amplify that voice of truth. So if you have anything else to say, if not, we'll end it there.
Yep. Trying to amplify that voice of truth. People can go out and check out the Funnel 5 presentations. All of them are up. People should be taking advantage of this moral knowledge, how while it's still here, how while it's still available. And how, of course, if you have kids out there, you should be morally educating them. There's nothing more important than the moral education of the kids. So if you are not doing that, then you are in the wrong, because that is the most important thing that any individual can do right now, is moral education of the kids and the next generation.
Right on. Yeah, check out freedomundernaturalaw.com. Mentioned it last week after the conference was done, but yeah, now all the individual videos are up, so you can tailor your viewing experience to select the ones that you want to watch.
Yep.
So we'll end it there, and I guess we'll be back on the 11th, 9 p.m. as usual on the Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that's it.